You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win! Hosing! Score! To Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
52.1 seconds to go. Do you love it, Niagara?
Welcome into another installment of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Brandon Caputo and Cam Halbert are with you if you're watching on the video version of the podcast. Thank you very much for doing that. Make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell for all updates on video versions of our podcast to get released here on the network. And to those listening today in on-demand audio, thank you very much for doing so as well. Make sure to follow the podcast on X at Dog Pound Podcast, and we're available on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you guys are at. Social media-wise, we are there for you as well if you're into that type of content. So on today's show, we're going to have two-part show today for our, November wrap-up and the beginning of December here for today's episode. We're going to make a line change halfway through. We're going to bring Drew in for the second half of the show. Cam's going to start us off, and we've got some great segments for you lined up. We've got Inside the Coaches Room with head coach Ben Boudreau, Monthly Maintenance with GM Wes Consorti, and our fun chat with Zak Lavoie for Lavy's Leadership Lounge. So on this first part of the episode today, Cam and myself will go over the chat with Ben Boudreau, as well as react to some of the Twitter polls that we put out for the month of November. Cam, before we get into all that, just general thoughts. I know we talk on the game recaps, which are also available in on-demand audio after every Niagara IceDogs home game. But what have your general thoughts been of the team as of late? Obviously, the first two games of December have been very promising, and they picked up more wins already than they had in the month of November. But it was tough sledding there with what Ben Boudreau had at his disposal for the lineup in his first month as full-time head coach.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've had a lot going on. I mean, the coaching change is obviously the big one. But yeah, them essentially not having a full lineup for about 3 weeks now, maybe a little bit more even. And it's not just a few guys out. It's half the team dealing with, various injuries and illnesses and things like that. So Ben Boudreau, or Coach Boudreau, has done a great job stepping in and kind of trying to instill a system change while, a lot of his normal roster players are out. And this culmination of this last week really driving home what he's trying to do. And for the first time in probably about since the last time we did one of these recap shows, things are looking up for the IceDogs.
Absolutely. So they pick up those two wins against Kitchener and Peterborough to start the month of December. Month of November, they only picked up one win. It was that win against the Barrie Colts, and they went on a 6-game losing streak, which Ben Boudreau will talk about in his interview there. But Cam, to you, which, I guess, games or players kind of had stuck out to you in the month of November that, despite everything that was going on and them not picking up the wins, who were some people that were, just being able to come through on the other side?
Well, definitely Ryan Robrick. I think that Robrick is really kind of stepped into a very prominent role. He's almost a point per game player as a 16-year-old. Essentially what we needed as a fan and as an organization. They needed the number 2 overall pick this year to really hit, especially what happened the year prior. And it has done that. He is tied for the league among rookies in scoring with 10 goals. And he really went on a nice little streak there, but he's looked a lot more confident since coming back from the under 17s. And you can only expect bigger and better things as he gets a little more confident. And you notice his size too. Like he's he's big as a 16-year-old, much like his brother was, right? So no real surprises there. I've really noticed especially since the coaching change, Ivan Gallianov. I talk about him a lot on the game recaps. He reminds me a lot of Alex Azadorian in that kind of that just like dog mentality, like never stops moving his feet. And if he loses the puck or he's in sight of the puck, trying to get it back or strip it, he's just relentless. And the best way to describe it is he looks annoying to play against. And he isn't the biggest body, and he's still very young. He's one of the 16-year-olds on the team, but he was scratched for the majority of the first month, and I think a lot of that was due to Coach Gubar trying to have the best start that he can and not put too many rookies in place in the lineup. And there's 4 16-year-olds, but thank God that they've all been really good. And now we're at a position now where we kind of just have to rely on all of them no matter what, and all of them have been super good. But Ivan Galliano is someone I've definitely noticed recently. And then, I mean, I guess this is this is definite recency bias, but Marcus Vandenberg has kind of, I don't want to say stolen the crease. That's not the case. But I think that we were leading towards more of a 70-30 split between Flores and Vandenberg. And now with how it's gone the last week, it's probably a 50-50, at least as long as Vandenberg keeps this up. We talked about this at the game recap. It'll be interesting to see who they start against Erie, because it's awfully tough to, win those 2 games. And the Kitchener game was a team effort with essentially no fourth line, 9 forwards in terms of ice time, and 40 shots against the best team in the OHL, and then winning that, and then coming back and following it up against a really good team in Peterborough. Vandenberg's done a ton to kind of rejuvenate this squad, but there's a lot. I mean, a lot of the players that have been able to stay in the lineup. Even Zak Lavoie has looked really good, not just offensively, defensively. And then we always discuss Kevin, just because of how talented he is, but he went on a long point streak, like a really long one during that month, and has kind of regained his form after a slow start where it just looked like he was just putting way too much pressure on himself in his draft year.
Yeah, Kevin, he up to 106 shots on net right now, so he's definitely shooting that puck, and he might have 130 if a couple of those ones he had picked this spot that didn't hit the glass, but he's really starting to shoot the puck a lot out there. You mentioned Marcus Vandenberg, won OHL goaltender of the week this week in the Ontario Hockey League. The 2 wins, a 1.96 goals against, and made 77 saves in the 2 games, as you mentioned, against Kitchener and Peterborough. So congratulations to Vandy for that. Let's move into our Twitter polls today. Cam, we'll quickly discuss those. Which IceDog player has had the most impact on the club this past month? You already kind of mentioned almost everybody on the poll there. Ryan Robrick, Marcus Vandenberg, Zak Lavoie, and Connor Federico. Marcus Vandenberg takes this poll pretty handily, 65.5%. Ryan Robrick in second with 27.6%. Does any of that really shock you?
No, it's recency bias, I think, right?
Yep.
I think that Robrick kind of had his scoring output kind of come at the beginning of the month, right? So that kind of makes sense. And like I said, 2 of the biggest wins of the season back to back, and essentially a lot of that was due to Vandenberg. So that doesn't surprise me.
No, but not to be forgotten, Connor Federico, because what he does for this team is not going to show up on a score sheet. It's not going to be 30 points in a season for him. It's going to be the plays like we saw last week against Peterborough, where he crushes a guy, the guy retaliates, he doesn't retaliate, gets the IceDogs that power play, and they eventually score on that. So he's basically what I would call an unsung hero in this team, because he does the dirty work and does the things that aren't going to show up on the score sheet that's going to help you win at the end of the day.
Well, I think that we talked about this on the recap show when it comes to Federico, is that he's a hometown guy now, and there's something to be said about wanting to. When a team struggles, it's obviously difficult, especially when it comes to the OHL, because you have such a short career window in the OHL, right? But when you get guys like Federico who want to be here regardless of what's going on, and they want to win here when things aren't going well, and then you see that in the way that he plays, because he's not putting up a ton of points, right? Very few, but it's just he is so relentless with his body that it's crazy to see. Like the hits that he lays he takes a lot of it as well. Like the way that he hits, he's not, crazy imposing like Bronson Ride, for example, just like massive. He's gotta take a lick when he goes and lays a big hit as well, and he doesn't shy away from anyone. Sticks up for his teammates. It's something that's necessary on an extremely young team to change the culture and things like that, especially on the Ice Dogs team over the last couple of years. But it's just refreshing to see, especially after last year, guys that are older at the end of their careers in the OHL and wanting to be here and playing really hard. Those are. I'm sure he's having a blast. But I'm sure there's nights where afterwards he's like, good God, he's just taking a beating. And that Peterborough play was exactly just kind of the highlight of it. He hit someone hard, agitated him enough, drew a hard penalty. He took a massive shot along the boards, got up, dusted himself off, didn't say a word, took the power play, and went off on the bench, and they ended up scoring the game winner. And yeah, that's the ultimate assist.
Absolutely. And Zak Lavoie, not to be forgotten as well. The 2-goal game in Kitchener, including the game winner. So Zak Lavoie starting to put the puck in the back of the net, along with working on his 200-foot game and being a catalyst as far as a captain goes on this team. Let's move on to poll number 2. Which Ice Dog player has taken the biggest strides forward in the past month? Bronson Ride, Ryan Van Netten, Ivan Galyanov, and Ethan Zada. Ryan Van Netten wins this poll, 56.3%. Second place was Ivan Galyanov at 25%. I think that just speaks to, where Ryan Van Netten's come from in the past year, or even to start the season. He was the extra defenseman, scratched on most nights, and then when a few guys got hurt, he started to gain his opportunity, and we heard Ben Boudreau talk about it in one postgame that I don't think anybody's benefited more from the coaching change than Ryan Van Netten, because he's very smart, he knows the details of the game, and he really implements what the coaches really want from him. He's a good listener, and he really does all the right things.
Oh, 100%. And he's going to be very important over the next little while, because we don't know, how long, Wysick's out and things like that. And, the D-core, we're going to hear from Ben Boudreau as well, talking about how, he had like 4 defensemen or 3 defensemen on some nights where the roster is just really undermanned because of the injuries. And he's going to have to play minutes that he wasn't going to get. He wasn't going to get at the beginning of the year. And he's done an admirable job for sure in that situation, no doubt.
Yeah, and good on Ivan Galyanov as well, who we talked about and Coach will talk about, but Ethan Zada and Bronson Ride as well.
I would say Galyanov would be my pick, just simply because, you go and look, and he's quietly put up 9 points in 18 games, and he's like, in the top 20 in rookie scoring, and he didn't play the first month, so and not only that, when he jumped in the lineup early, he was the 4th line when everyone was healthy, and now he's not always at center, but up in the lineup, like high in the second line at times. And he's gotten pretty decent on the faceoffs too. Like he's just annoying, like with his stick, like and you can see it on faceoffs too. So I said that I think that him and Zada are going to be like fan favorites in a year or two. They might not get the focus that Rubrick will, but given how his up or Kevin Heath, for example. But I feel like if you go to Ice Dog games every night or every home game, you're gonna really like Zada and Galyanov as well. Not to take away from anyone else, just personally what I've seen over the last little while.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting to see how the lineup kind of shakes out when Ben Boudreau's got all of his pieces to his disposal and where that shakes out. Everybody
play that
else.
Exercise? Should we do that exercise?
Yeah, maybe sometime. I don't know if we have the time today, but definitely something to think about that we should put together.
I have no idea now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So we'll move on to poll 3, and that is, which Ice Dog player are you expecting the biggest impact from upon the return to the lineup? These are all players that are currently scratched at the moment. Gavin Bryant, Mike Podolou, Andrew Wysick, and Matthew Paris. Gavin Bryant takes this one 64.7%. Second place, Matthew Paris at 17.6%. Are you surprised at all, Cam?
It's tough because Paris was kind of like when he came over, he had and then he had the 5-point game. And it was literally the team's leading scorer at the end of the month, the first month or so of the 6 weeks of the season, which is so surprising because he plays kind of quieter. I would say he's like a less agitating forward as Mike Levin. Both similar, like in the way that they're very good shot, sneaky offensively. I think that Levin may be a little bit more physical, or less. At least he kind of kind of gets that trigger switched a little bit easier. But he has definitely been missed offensively. I think Bryant, probably because he's such a good face-off man. Definitely a leader as well. Yeah, it's tough. They're all so important. Like Wysick, we didn't realize it going into the season how good he has become in terms of breaking the puck out. I'm super excited after seeing what appears to be a system change where under Ben Boudreau, the weak side defenseman is jumping up in the play. And we saw a number of times, and in fact, Van Netten his goal was off of that kind of rush. And I don't know if that was just one off and things like that, but I'm starting to see Bronson Ride do it a little bit in terms of the weak side defenseman jumping up in the play. And if that's a coaching change and a philosophy change, Wysick was the best offensive defenseman to start the year in terms of like puck protection, getting into the offensive zone, breaking it in, and things like that. So when he comes back, it's going to be interesting. And not only that, the power play has been 5 forwards, right? And it's been pretty good. Like they haven't given up. Again, I don't know the system change. They haven't given up any breakaways really shorthanded with 5 forwards in the ice. But Wysick I would have to assume goes back on the first line power play once he comes back. So that's wide open. Honestly, all of those players are so important to the team that I'm not really stunned at anyone.
Yeah, the last game that we talked about as far as the first power play unit was Kevin He, Alex Asadorian, Ryan Robrick, Zak Lavoie, and Mike Levin. So 5 forwards with that. Before we get to Ben Boudreau, Cam, quickly about Urban Podrekar leaving for Team Slovenia at the World Juniors. So that's another defenseman they're going to be without for at least a couple of weeks here. He scored his first goal the other night, so that was a big confidence booster for him. What have you liked from the Slovenian import? And, they're going to have to find somebody to fill his shoes right now.
Well, I think the hope is that Wysick comes back. Like that they were the D pairing for a majority of the first 6 weeks of the season, and they were really good. I think that first of all, congrats to Urban Podrekar. I would love to know obviously the feeling to represent your country has got to be incredible, but that obviously expectations for Slovenia aren't the same as the US or Canada. And obviously the roster talent is going to be a little bit of disparaging, but we talked about this with the under 17s when Zlatan Rubric went. It's going to NHL camps or the World Juniors, things like that. You come back with a sense of confidence, and he's so good holding on to the puck that he's an extremely important part of the team. I thought that he had a really good start to the year, kind of quieted down a little bit in that middle section, but recently, again, probably due to the coaching change, he's very good offensively and getting the puck out of his zone, and as well as defensive coverage. I think that in terms of players that deal with 2-on-1s and odd-man rushes, I think Podrekar is one of the better ones on the team. It's just that there haven't been as many, and again, that might be a coaching philosophy change, but I'm excited to see how he does. I'm more excited to see when he comes back, how he operates, because he's going to be sorely missed while he's gone.
They are going to be in tier 2 of the World Juniors as well, so they're hoping to get promoted. How they do it every year, where 2 teams get relegated and 2 teams get promoted. So best of luck to him and Team Slovenia. With that said, we're going to take you to our feature interview with Ben Boudreau, the Ice Dogs head coach, for Inside the Coaches Room, and that, as always, is brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity today. We're back on Inside the Coaches Room with Ice Dogs head coach Ben Boudreau, brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Ben, thanks so much for doing this. It's your first time, obviously, your first full month as Ice Dogs head coach. Before we get into the general thoughts about the team, just how are you feeling now that you've really had a chance to implement your system here within the last month, and are you pleased with the way that the group is kind of responding to that, the results that you're finally starting to see the last couple of nights?
Yeah, I think, anytime you look at something short term, there can be variations of success. But for me, the way I want to look at everything is more or less in a long-term picture. So I think it's important to look at the core group of young guys that you're going to have for the following years, the Rubrics and the Kevin Hees and the Zadas and the Gallianovs and the Frolovs and, those type of guys, and make sure that when you talk culture, when you talk understanding of how things are going to go. That this is the core that you're going to want to be able to carry forward for the next few years. So I'm thinking long term as far as implementing systems and the way we prepare, and as far as expectations, the way we execute. So I think that's more important than any short term success or lack thereof. And it's never fun going through a 6 game winning streak, but we've won 2 recently, and two's some say two's a fluke, but three's a streak, and that's what we're aiming for on Thursday in the beginning of a new month here.
And you talk about, putting your stamp on the team. One of the first things you did when you were named a permanent head coach was giving Zak Lavoie the permanent C. He had been wearing it on a rotational basis with the other 5 assistant captains. What was it about Zak that you wanted to really name him captain, and what you thought that he brought to the C, and why you want him to lead your group here?
Well, Zach is, a great leader both on and off the ice. And when you look at captain, it's the guy who does the walk and not necessarily the talk. He prepares and practices the right way. He carries himself the right way. He's vocal, understands the game, and he's a good leader on the ice. And as far as in the community, this is somebody with great morals and a lot of respect, and somebody that you're proud of to have represent you out there. So Zach was an easy choice for us, and he's been both impactful on and off the ice for us. So it's a lot of fun with him officially knowing the direction and what we need from him as far as a leader.
As far as the games go, Coach, obviously November wasn't your best as far as results, and you talk about all the time about not wanting to be complacent. And it's great to see progress, but you want to start putting together wins, and didn't have a whole lot of that in the month of November, and you had a depleted lineup for most of it. I know you don't want to make that an excuse, but how are you and the rest of the coaching staff able to kind of navigate through having upwards of 9 or 10 guys on the shelf, and needing guys to step up, play a lot of minutes? There were some games where we were only running 3 forward lines and maybe 4 or 5 defensemen, and then having about 4 or 5 different call-ups throughout the month that had to come up and be asked to take on some minutes and produce. So how are you pleased from that standpoint with everything you dealt with in the month of November?
Yeah, like there's been some challenges, and nobody wants to make excuses, and nobody wants to blame anybody. But the reality of it is we were short a lot of guys, and there was a lot of changes. And when the coaching change was made, we lost Asadorian and Wysick and Paris, and then when we made the trade for Crane, he was out in the second game, and and Gavin Bryant and Podolou and Sobolev and Vermeulen and Klein was out, and you start looking down your list, and that's half your team, and we got put into tough situations with illnesses and injuries, and I think the most important thing is we experienced a 6 game winning streak or losing streak, sorry, but we said enough is enough, and we quit making excuses and quit feeling bad for ourselves, and found a way to show up and play as a team. So if the last 2 games is any indication of the character in that room, or the will, within their system, these guys want to win. They don't want to accept being a bottom feeding team, and they still believe that they can make the playoffs here. So a game against Kitchener where they've got all the high end draft picks, and they're one of the best teams, first in the division, and to be able to beat them in their rink where they had the best home record was a big time achievement for us. And then to hold court and beat Peterborough, who had been thriving, is a big one for us. So if we can carry any type of momentum and learn the lessons from those games, and take it into Erie and Owen Sound or Sudbury, sorry, it'll be a good week for us.
From my co-host Andrew Thompson, he wants to ask, what have the last 2 wins against 2 of the top teams in the OHL done for the psyche of the group inside the room? Is there legitimately more belief that they can win every night now, and what has worked to help get them the results against Kitchener and Peterborough that they hadn't been able to get with many of the other teams in the month of November?
Well, 100% that it has really carried this team's confidence that they can achieve anything no matter who's in or who's out. We found a way to shut it down defensively, only 4 goals allowed over the last 2 games. And, I thought our special teams was pretty good, minus the PK there on the Friday. But, for us, it's finding ways to win. And I thought when we sat guys down and gave them roles and set expectations, they bought into it. Kleiner and Federcal were great on the weekend, and our goal scorers, had been our goal scorers. So I think that's really important that we're finding identities and we're all playing to them in order to win.
Something that the previous head coach had spoke about, and obviously you were on the staff, was that we need these young players to be great now. Spoke of that in the preseason about your 4 16-year-olds, Robrick, Zada, Galyanov, and Frolov. Could you have imagined all 4 of these guys being as impactful players this quickly in the Ontario Hockey League? Because it's not easy to come into this league as a 16-year-old, but you've got 4 guys that have really taken another step and look like everyday OHL players out there as such young guys.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we do need these guys to be great now, but great within their own capabilities. We don't expect Zada to score 30 goals, but we expect him to be the best version of himself, because he's playing 15, 16 minutes a game. Rubrick played over 20 minutes the other night, and, he's been great scoring goals. And so Galyanov, a huge role as a top 6 forward, number 1 on the PK, and, on the power play, playing lots of minutes as a 16-year-old. So we're throwing him into the fire, but you're going to see the benefits of this payoff down the road, getting them used to these heavy minutes and understand what it's like to be involved in the game, because what you're looking at is the 16-year-olds is the Ice Dogs' future here. So better now than later.
Marcus Vandenberg, not to be forgotten this week, Coach. I mean, again, you spoke about your goaltending, that you need them to be great on most nights, and there might have been a week there in November where they didn't play their best, but they bounced back well. Flores got a star in Brantford, and then you went back to back with Vandenberg, and obviously today he earned the OHL goaltender of the week. 2 wins, a 1.96 goals against average, and 77 saves over those 2 games that you had against Peterborough and Kitchener to finally get for your first back-to-back wins of the season. Can you just talk about maybe the development and the growth that you've seen in not only Marcus Vandenberg but Owen Flores as well for your goaltending tandem?
Yeah, I just actually had a really good conversation with Flores, his agent. He's a great kid. Starting with Flo, he's a great kid that's going to give you a chance to win more often than not. And he's one of the same things where he's got great resiliency, great character. He carries himself with professional habits, which is what you want to see. And I don't think there's a ceiling for him. I think he's going to be a great goaltender for a lot of years to come and have a great career. So we're lucky we've got him now. And if he's not on, and you look at Vandy, you start seeing some of the performances he's put on. I mean, we went up to Sudbury. I think we lost 3-1 that game. I thought he was nothing short of phenomenal. We just didn't get the run support. And, it's we talked about finding consistency, and back-to-back first stars on Friday and Sunday against 2 tough teams, was the definition of it. So we know what they're both capable of. And, for us in our position, the second one of them starts giving us results, we're going to ride them. And right now, Vandy's got the hot hand.
Despite everything that's kind of gone on in the month of November with the results not going your way, after the 2 wins this weekend, you only sit 5 points back of Barrie for that last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. So despite the negative, just how much are you and the coaching staff looking at the positive and the fact that you guys really have a strong opportunity here to be playing valuable games once we hit the new year, and obviously wanting to play meaningful games that is going to be good experience for the guys as they move forward here?
Yeah, realistically, you never know. I mean, that could be 3 games right there, and you're back into a playoff spot before Christmas. We got 6 left, and our goal. We have short-term goals and long-term goals. Long-term this season, we want to make sure that we're in a playoff position. That's strides going forward. Short term, we want to win the week, right? We got 6 points at stake right here. We want to win the week, which means that we're 4 to 6 points minimum. You got Erie that we've beaten before, and we've got some opponents coming up where we've proven to ourselves that we can hang with anybody. And if we get healthy, then we're going to have a belief that we're walking in there expecting to win, not hoping we'll win.
By the time we talk again in the new year at the starting of January, what are you hoping to see from this team in the next 6 games to close out the winter break and the winter season there? Obviously, the month of December has been good for you so far. Picked up 2 wins, already more than you had in the month of November total. So what are you hoping to see from the team in the next little stretch here? And what are some maybe players that you're looking to really take a big step? Obviously, Kevin, he's hard on himself, and everybody expects a lot from him. Who maybe are you looking to take another step here as we close out the 2023?
Yeah, well, I think all eyes are on Kevin, being the draft here and, on the scouting list and everything. He's got the capabilities of being drafted. I think he should be drafted. He's a great hockey player. If we can find a way to put a little bit more scoring touch in his hands, I think he'll shoot right up, the ladder when it comes to scoring goals. So he's on the right trajectory for sure, and we expect him to catch fire. But the more experience with these rookies, the more opportunity that they play, more confident that they are. And, Rupert gets a lot of attention as a second overall pick, as he should. I mean, he's a great player, and he's going to be, phenomenal player here in the league. But one guy I look at that's, all heart and soul is, Ivan Galyanov, 92 in the middle. He's just, like I said, he's coming into his own. He's going to grow into his body, but I mean, he's a gamer, and, he's going to be a lot of fun to build around. So, I mean, as far as taking steps, the minutes that he's playing, he was thrust into a role when Potaloo went out and Gavin Bryan went out, and, we found a way to ride him pretty good. So, I know his short-term trajectory is on a positive one. His long-term, same thing. I don't know what his ceiling is, but it's exciting that I don't know if there's a limit right now for him. So Ivan Galyanov's, I think, a guy to watch here.
Apologies, I said it was the last question, but something just popped in my head. You mentioned on the post-game yesterday that Urban Podrekar was leaving for Team Slovenia in the World Juniors. So he scored his first goal, so that's a big confidence booster. What are you hoping when he comes back that he's going to have a little bit extra juice, kind of like we saw with Robrick and Zada? And who do you expect to step up in his place, obviously, as a puck-moving defenseman and a guy that's played on your top four for the whole season?
Yeah, I got to find out if we have even 4 defensemen come the weekend. To be honest with you, it was kind of funny. I mean, we played with 3 defensemen on Wednesday night, and Kleiner went back there just to make it 4. So again, we're not making excuses. We're just trying to make it work with what we have. And Ryder's been playing over 30 minutes a night. So, as far as stepping up, I think Ryder's already stepped up this week when guys went down. But, Sobolev came back, and yeah, which was huge. I think we need him in the lineup, and he's a steady presence. And you never know what you got until it's gone. And when we didn't have Sobe, we really felt it. But as far as the back end, we haven't had Wysick for a little bit, but the guy can move pucks and compete. And I haven't had a chance really to put my impact with a full lineup. So I'm looking forward to getting this whole team back together and seeing if we can make a run and do some damage here.
IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau on Inside the Coach's Room. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. Hopefully you get some bodies back here before we talk again at the end or at the beginning of January. Happy holidays, and look forward to seeing this team continue to build off of those 2 wins at the start of December.
Thanks, pal. All the best.
So there was IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau for another installment of Inside the Coach's Room. Cam, a lot of good thoughts there from Ben over that, 12 or so minute chat. What were some of your biggest takeaways from what the IceDogs head coach had to say through his first month?
He mentioned that he sat down with a lot of the players, and something that I picked out specifically was that he mentioned Klein and Federkow, and he said that they have a role to fill. And then it was just kind of glossed over. But just what they did on the weekend, they're always physical players, but Klein had a massive hit against Kitchener and then had to answer the bell, which he did very, very well. Federkow was all over the place as he always was, but definitely had a little bit more pep in his step when it comes to laying the body check and finishing his hits. So I think that there's probably something along the lines of let's worry just about that. Let's focus on being physical, making it hard to play against. And those two specifically definitely took note, I would assume, because they had such a good weekend. Another thing I enjoyed was the winning no matter what. We talked about the quote that he had in the game recap, but I think that they were so undermanned to beat the number 1 team in the OHL. It's such a perfect example of there is no excuse now. And I think that how they played in Peterborough, that kind of proved it. They have no excuse no matter who they play. And going into that, before that game, there was what we would deem as scheduled losses where it's just going to be difficult. Even if the team's at full health, right? It's just when you look at the top end of the OHL, these guys, these teams have been building for 3-4 years, and you're seeing Carson Retkov and Rustevich and things like that. So at the high end, we're kind of in the first iteration of the rebuild, and to be able to hang with them and win is just so massive. And yeah, now there's no excuse. So it doesn't matter if they're playing Saginaw, it doesn't matter if they're playing Erie. or Brantford, whatever. There's no excuse. So I think that was a massive thing, and I love that quote from him. Another thing was speaking of Flores. So we noticed over the I can't remember off the top of my head the game that he was pulled.
That was the Brantford game at home.
Brantford, and God, Brantford is so annoying to watch them play against. You know, they just it's usually a 1-goal game or something, and it's like you know they're not the world beaters, and so like it's just they always like win by one or it's just very frustrating game, and the way that started was awful. And you notice Flores like on the bench when he was pulled, he was barking, he was not happy, didn't like the team's performance, and neither did any of us. It was brutal. The team came out very flat and didn't help him at all, and he got the hook there, and Vandenberg came in. And then obviously Vandenberg gets the 2 starts this weekend. So you asked about Vandenberg, and his first kind of response was, talking about Flores. And I think that just he mentioned that he spoke to Flores and gave him praise and talked about the goals and things about that going forward. And I think that's important. I mean, he called out the goaltending in his first week. And it didn't matter if they were undermanned, and they've answered the bell like they have all season long. They had one little hiccup week, and they've been almost perfect. I mean, you go and look at the save percentage. The second, we're second we're 19th out of 20 teams in the OHL standings right now, and Owen Flores is top 10 in save percentage.
Yep.
Right, like those two don't really go hand in hand. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty crazy. So. Not a knock on Flores at all again over the last week, but I thought that it was interesting that he specifically went out of his way to mention Flores well when asked about Vandenberg, which I think is important. And I want to see. We talk about this off the air, but they're both overagers, and that's an interesting dynamic of how that's going to work next year and how the rest of the season plays out. And a lot of the things that are overlooked by fans when it comes to the OHL is a developmental league. I think developmental league first. So they want to put these guys in the best position to give them their best shot to continue their career. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and Flores quickly, he did get a 3rd star in Brantford. So at the game, the game he got pulled against Brantford at home, goes back to Brantford and gives them a chance to win there, and obviously got an away star there.
No, 100%. Yeah, like it was a rough week for the team. And they've answered the bell well. It was just that one when he got pulled.
Yep.
It was like he didn't go quietly. It was he let him know, and I think that he's a leader on the team. He's been here now. He's one of the more tenured guys, even though he was just there last year. But he was there he acquired in training camp, I believe, last year. So he's been there for 2 full seasons, and they listen. And I think that's going to be important. They need him to be as good as he's been, and as well as with Vandenberg, but. Mentioning Galyanov, he said he was just a gamer, fun to build around, and I think that's a perfect way to describe him. I think that Galyanov, when you talked about the poll about the players that's most improved, it's just at the beginning of the season we didn't see him. We saw him in the press box, like that's where we saw him, and now there isn't really any games where you don't notice he's on the ice. We're watching every game from upstairs, and there's some games where you don't notice some of the players, and that happens, right? And every time he's on, there's something. He's a high event player. Let's say that. Lastly, he talked about the thing that I want to mention is he talked about the defense and specifically that some nights there's 3, and Klein had to go back and play defense, and it's just what happens with the OHL sometimes when the injury bug hits. But he said that Bronson Ride stepped up, and the first month of the season, he was just kind of steady Eddie. Wasn't doing anything to stand out, but he wasn't giving up anything or anything like that. Which last year he was very impactful when he came over from Windsor. But the last little while, there is something to his game, and I don't know if that's Ben Boudreau meeting with everyone and talking, with every player and kind of setting expectations and things like that. He's definitely a great talker. And I think they listen. Like he has a firm, stance on how he wants things done. And Bronson had the best game that he's had all season against Peterborough. And I talked about how he was my player of the game that, not on the score sheet. And I hope to see some more out of him because he's so good and he's just massive. He's just a big player.
Yeah, and I think it was definitely interesting to hear him say we got to find out if we have 4 defensemen for the weekend. So. They're going to have to step up because Padraig is out right now, one of the World Juniors.
Yeah, it's so tough because we talked about how there was too many bodies on the team for the first month, and players couldn't get in the lineup, and was like, man, that's awesome. And I would kill to just have the just almost everyone back, and we'll see. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if there's gonna be moves made, anything like that. But if they beat Erie and they get within 3 points going in like near the Christmas break, like. I don't know. It's gonna be Wes has got a very tough job ahead of him because you're gonna have to decide whether the overagers are moved and who stays and things like that for next year. But man, like it's not out of the realm of possibility that they can make the playoffs, especially because all the games they play they're so close. Like they're all one-goal games. So
yeah, they're right in it. And the last thing I liked from Ben was that he talked about the long-term picture, the core that he wants to move forward with. He mentioned Kevin He, Ryan Robrick, Ivan Galyanov. He really likes this young core that they have and putting the right pieces around them and having them continue to play meaningful games as we reach the new year. And that's really all we wanted because obviously this team was pretty much out of it last year when the calendar hit to 2023. So I think that's going to be important for these guys to experience that. And they've got a tough schedule to end 2023 here. Erie tomorrow, and then you've got the back-to-back, and then you go to Sudbury on a back-to-back, and then you've got Mississauga on Sunday. So the schedule doesn't get any easier for the Ice Dogs, but this is what they want if they want to continue to be a team that's a force to be reckoned with in the OHL.
No, 100%. I'm excited to see how they answer it. And it's again much different than last year. I think the biggest thing when you mentioned stability and players to build around, we know that Boudreau is going to be here for a while. And obviously performance is going to be key, but the expectation is that this is like a couple year plan, and it finally feels like, okay, let's do this. The draft class last year is going to significantly change this franchise. I'm so a firm believer of that. Zada, Frolov, Robrick, and Galyanov are like, that's to get 4 rostered players out of your draft, like 4 impact players, like that's extremely rare. So.
Well, Cam, thanks a lot for doing this today, and we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to make a line change. We're going to get Drew in here, and we're going to talk about the chat with Wes Consorti for our monthly maintenance segment, as well as our Lavy's Lounge with Captain Zak Lavoie. So stay right here. We'll be right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family.
Pets bring immense joy to our homes, becoming an integral part of our families. But this living, loving experience often requires a little extra care and attention. That's where Global Pet Foods comes in, with owners and staff ready to support you every step of the way. Check out one of their locations today: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Proud show sponsor of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara Ice Dogs.
Niagara Golf Lounge features 2 state-of-the-art indoor golf simulators, allowing you to play some of the world's best courses all year round. The perfect place to indulge all season long. Don't worry about getting thirsty while you play around with your friends. Their fully stocked bar offers a wide selection of drinks, appetizers, and a variety of meals are also available to enjoy before, during, or after you play. Grab a seat next to the fire in their comfortable sports lounge. Didn't bring your clubs? No problem. They have partnered with TaylorMade to offer you the best rental clubs. You won't want to miss their exclusive NFL and NHL giveaways for the Buffalo Sabres and Buffalo Bills. Located in the Best Western Plus Karen Croft Hotel, 6400 Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more and to reserve your golf bay today. The Niagara Golf Lounge, Niagara's home for golf and sport all year round.
J&L Flooring is Niagara's specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. With a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety of truly unique products, J&L Flooring is your specialty flooring and decor boutique shop. All of their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they simplify the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack. at J&L Flooring. Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, Better Jobs Ontario information and registration assistance, and you can check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983.
This is Alex Asadorian.
Hey, it's Ryan Roberg.
Bronson Ride.
This is Gavin Bryant.
And you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast,
the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs.
We're back on segment 2 of today's Dog Pound podcast and our monthly wrap-up show for the month of November and the beginning of December. Made a line change for the co-host, as I mentioned. We've got Andrew Thompson, a.k.a. Drew Deeks, on our right here, taking over for Cam for part 2 of today's episode. Guys, make sure you're following the podcast on X at Dog Pound Podcast, and make sure if you're enjoying the video version of the content, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell for all updates on video versions of our podcast that get released here on the network. And to those listening today in on-demand audio, thank you very much for doing that as well. Guys, the Dog Pound Podcast is proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods. Where pets are undeniably part of the family. Visit any 4 of their great Niagara region locations. So in the first part of today's show, Cam and I basically discussed the Twitter polls, the fan polls, about who they thought really stuck out in the last month. As well, we had our Inside the Coaches Room, brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center with IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau. I'm Drew. Since I changed co-hosts. Since you weren't a part of the first segment today, I wanted to just give you kind of a few minutes here to just quickly talk about what you thought of head coach Ben Boudreau in his first full month as full-time head coach, taking over for Ryan Kuwabar at the end of October. And from the sense that you're getting, where do you think that 9 guys have been out of the lineup, and it's been a lot of guys out with illness and injury, but do you think they're in a good place right now?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that because we'll get to the Wes interview, Wes Consorti, GM of the IceDogs, shortly, and he mentioned, with the 9 guys being out, no excuses, no team is going to feel sorry for you, right? I mean, that's just the nature of sports and competition. You just take the hand that you're dealt and you play your cards because you have no other option. You can't fold, right? So, but with Ben, what I think I've noticed so far is that with the adversity that has continued to come, even as he's taken over with the illnesses and with the injuries, you read his body language on the bench, and he really seems to choose his moments when to, get the guys fired up, get them going on the bench. I mean, I think maybe he seems like a guy that would save that for behind the scenes in the locker room between periods in terms of whether he's correcting guys or trying to get guys back on the same page. Because, in the month of November, the results still weren't quite there until the very end, right? When you get those huge wins against Peterborough and Kitchener. And, that's where, it's only 2 games, but it really does seem like this is a potential to have the tide turn on the season here, because it really looked like things could go off the rails and playoffs would just be a pipe dream come December here. But it does seem like based on the way Ben's handled himself, I think he also has to be patient with himself. And I think so far he's done that, because you can't come in and fix everything overnight, no matter how good of a coach you are and how good of a coach you believe you have for your team. I mean, you have to give it time. I mean, he didn't have enough practice time. When the first couple games, he was just like, all right, roll with it, jump into 2 games right out of the hopper, right? So, but in terms of how he's handled it, though, I think it's been impressive in terms of his demeanor. If this guy, if Ben is going to be a coach that is going to be here long term, like he said, and that's the plan, I think based on the hand he's been dealt, they've handled it rather well. And I think that he just seems like a guy, every time he speaks with you after a game, every time he really has a cool head, and he has confidence, a quiet confidence that you need. And I think that the results are starting to, these two massive wins against Kitchener and Peterborough speak for themselves. But it really does seem like and it's interesting. Like I always have the Montreal Canadiens background behind me, as you know, I cover them so much. But it's amazing how a rebuilding team is responding to a new coaching staff, new ownership, new management. It's basically happening on both of my favorite teams right now, and the Canadiens and the Ice Dogs. So I'm seeing it fleshed out, and I'm seeing how the team really does seem to be more excited to show up to the rink every day. You kind of hear that from Wes as well. These guys want to be here. They're excited to put on the jersey every day in Niagara. And I think Ben has responded, and Wes as well, to the continued adversity that's come at them. And the results they believe are going to keep coming. And I know we propped up this team from episode 1 of training camp, the optimism that we have had for this franchise. But I really do think that the results are slowly going to start to continue here, hopefully, going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, and as the thumbnail says, trusting the process, and that's what we have to do with Ben Boudreau here. They're sitting 5 points out of a playoff spot at the time of recording this right now, despite only winning 1 game in the month of November, starting off December really nicely with those first 2 games. But again, I think what everybody's talked about is just this young core. Everybody, we'll get to Wes Consorti here shortly, but even Ben was talking about, the 06s and the 07s. Those guys are going to be the ones carrying this franchise. And Ben wants to be here long-term. He talks about wanting to have a long-term plan and, putting his stamp on this team. And like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. And these young players, these 4 16-year-olds, and even Kevin He, to a certain extent, who's a second-year player, those guys are still developing as hockey players and as young men. So, the fact that they're, at this point right now, the wins aren't coming. But if you watch this team, and we still don't even really know what this team's going to be yet because we haven't seen the full lineup yet. So we can't even make a proper determination because we haven't seen this team with a full lineup with most of their guys healthy since basically the end of October. So until we can actively see what this team's capable of, I don't think we can write them off. But again, they're going to have to start picking up some wins, which they did, which was big. But at the same time, though, developing that young core and having Ben here for that long term and not hitting the panic button right away, I think that's big.
It is big, and there is no panic. And if you panic, I mean, what good is that going to do, right? So I think that Ben's got everyone on the same page right now, at least in terms of what you're gathering from sort of the outside here. But certainly there's a growing confidence in this young core, as you're going to hear Wes talk about as well. I mean, he's encouraging fans to come watch these young 16-year-olds because it's really impressive what they've been able to accomplish so far. And, with Ryan Rubrick, a second overall pick, it's hard not to mix up his brother. He was here once. He's tied right now for rookie scoring right now. And that's kind of what you hoped and expected. But as the results slowly start to hopefully be at least semi-consistent the rest of the way, it's no surprise that Ryan Robrick's able to put up these kind of numbers. And like you mentioned, Galiano, Frolov, like these guys as 16-year-olds also have really, since the coaching change specifically, really showed what they're capable of. And you're only going to see more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys are going to have to step up because Urban Podrekar has gone to the World Juniors for Slovenia. So more guys are going to have to step up. They've even moved a couple of guys back to D that have been playing that were forward. So everybody's chipping in with what they can do right now, and everybody is just putting their head down and doing what's best for the team. It's not about one individual guy, and everybody's chipping in as we await reinforcements to come here for the Niagara IceDogs. So with that said, we're going to take you to our next segment, and that is with Ice Dogs General Manager Wes Consorti, and our monthly maintenance segment is brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012, in honor of the late William Robert Hunter. Here is Ice Dogs General Manager Wes Consorti on the team's play over the last month. We're back on our monthly maintenance segment brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair with Ice Dogs General Manager Wes Consorti. Wes, thanks a lot for taking the time once again. An interesting month of November for you guys. Obviously, October, you picked up a lot of points, but the wins weren't coming. So you did end up making a coaching change from Ryan Kuwabara to Ben Boudreau. What went into that decision, and how have you been pleased with what Ben's brought to that position so far through, I guess, his first month as full-time head coach?
Yeah, I mean, change is never easy. I have nothing but good things to say about Ryan Kuwabara. He's a great person. We certainly valued the time and energy and respect he gave everyone in the organization. Change is hard, and Ben stepped in and done a great job, and I think the young core group of players have reacted in a positive way, and I think their play has changed a little bit, and the energy's there. Ben's doing a great job keeping everyone up, and it's just unfortunate with our injuries and illness that we've had in the last month that we've kind of had to navigate through. It's no excuse, but it's definitely more difficult navigating through that, coupled with a coaching change as well. So, I think we're on the mend here. So I think things will start improving.
Yeah, and you talked about being able to overcome that. I mean, there were games and weekends where you only had 10 forwards dressed, and you've had to call up 4 or 5 different players from other leagues and whatnot. So just talk about the challenges that you've kind of had to go through with that, and put together a lineup that was going to be competitive here in the Ontario Hockey League and go through that. You guys had 9 or 10 scratches at one point. So when you go through something like that, how do you maintain a positive outlook on things?
Well, yeah, just going into the season, like we started out with 24 players, 23, 24 players, and that we had 3-4 regulars out of lineup every night, and now, at one point, 8 or 9 guys out. You don't prepare to have that many players out, but we're doing our best to manage, bringing guys up and making sure that the guys coming back are ready properly. So there's a lot that goes into that as well. And like Ben Boudreau said, like, it doesn't really matter who's in or who's out. Like, the effort hasn't changed, and I think the last couple of games you've seen. Short or, it's who's in, who's out. It's just a matter of competing and buying into what the system is and playing properly. And guys are getting results for that. But for sure, it's difficult, playing underman. Like, 9 regulars out one night is something that I don't think I've ever seen before. It's unfortunate, but you have to navigate through. No one feels sorry for you. Definitely the other team does not feel sorry for you. So everyone's got to step up.
You made a move this month, early November. You acquired Brody Crane from the London Knights for 3 draft picks and Chris O'Flaherty. Unfortunately, he got hurt in his first game, and obviously we really haven't got to see what Brody Crane can bring on the ice yet. Hopeful that he's going to be able to return soon, but what went into the thought process of that trade and bringing Brody here to Niagara? I know Connor Federico is one of his best friends as well, so it was an easy transition for him coming down here to Niagara. But what do you guys like that he brings on and off the ice, and what you think Ice Dog fans are going to like from his play when he does get back in the lineup?
Yeah, it's unfortunate him getting injured for sure. He's looking for a fresh start. He will get a fresh start once he's healthy. We like his skill and what he's going to bring to our lineup every night. Plays fast, and I think paired with certain guys on our team, he'll succeed here. So, very nice kid on and off the ice. He's got some connections with a few of our players that we found out about when he got here. So it's good to see. He's fitting in great. He's just trying to get as healthy as possible before he can come back, and we're excited to see him in the lineup every night.
GM Wes Consorti is with us. Wes, you talked in the preseason about we're never going to stop paying for good culture, and you talked about the moves that you made, and obviously giving up 2/3 and a fourth for somebody like Brody Crane. Are you okay with what the compensation has been so far with the trades that you've made this season, and continuing to make sure that you're bringing in the right people, not just skilled players, but the right people that want to be here in Niagara and want to turn this thing around?
Yeah, and it will turn around. I mean, if you look at our core young group of players, like they stack up with anybody throughout the league. So it's important that the guys coming in are strong leaders for these guys, and guys that our young guys can look up to and know how to, prepare for games and act properly off the ice, and eat well and work out well. Like, these are things that matter to us. And the guys that we've brought in have done an outstanding job. They're happy to be here. They're excited to put on the jersey every day. They're great in the community. So, Yeah, it's a process to develop our young players, and there's a proper way to do it, and we're not going to stop, doing that. It is, our young group is too important to leave anything up to chance, and I think over the last week or so, everyone has seen how important and talented and how good these young guys are, and they're going to drive our franchise. So, we're just excited to see them grow.
And going off of that, you do have an overage spot available at the moment, but do you envision yourself using that, or are you guys really happy with the way that these young players that you mentioned are developing? You've got 4 16-year-olds in the lineup, and they're all learning how to become OHL players, and they all look like they belong. Obviously, Ryan Robrick, tied for the rookie leading goals. Ethan Zada won a gold medal with the U17s for Team Canada. And then Artem Frolov on the back end has looked like a steady OHL defenseman, which is not easy to do as a 16-year-old. And even Ivan Galyanov, since the coaching change, has really been a staple in the lineup and has been a spark plug. So have the development of those 4 16-year-olds having to go make a move because these guys have just developed into those players that you've kind of wanted anyway?
Yeah, not necessarily stop or pause anything, but if you've seen the development of these 07s and even Kevin He, they're playing big time minutes for good reason. They're big time players. I encourage anyone to come out and watch these players, and they're big time guys. And it's just so exciting watching these guys. They love the game. They love hockey, and just seeing the passion, it's contagious, and it bleeds through the room. The staff recognize it. It's just very good to see, and I'm just very excited for these guys, and just seeing them come to the rink every day, getting better, and that's very important to us too. So I wouldn't say they've fast tracked their development, but our 07s are exactly who we thought they would be. And they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, and a credit to your scouting staff as well. A few more quick ones for you, Wes. First, Marcus Vandenberg. The last 2 games, Kitchener and Peterborough, he has been outstanding for you guys. Obviously, you still believe a lot in Owen Flores, but when you had acquired Marcus Vandenberg, you gave up a hefty price to get him as well from Kitchener, but is this kind of what you had envisioned of what he would bring to this lineup as a guy that could steal you some games against some top teams? And he's just playing with so much confidence right now, especially the last week. He's finally starting to get the results, even though he might have been playing great throughout the season. The team just wasn't picking up the wins for him.
Yeah, he's done a great job. It's healthy competition. It's no different than any other tandem in the league that are similar in our situation. It creates natural competition. Marcus and Owen are great teammates. They're competitors. They want the net. I think it drives the team. So, they're great teammates. They compete hard in practice. Marcus said, the last 2 games have been outstanding. Flo was great in Brantford. We just didn't pick up the win for him as well. It's good. It's hockey. It's a tough, it can be tough sometimes navigating, who's getting the net and things like that. But, when a goalie can step up and shine, makes the decisions a lot easier. But at the same time, there's another guy knocking at the door, just waiting to get back in there. So they've both been great. They're both great teammates and players. So, it's been good.
As we await Brandon Shaw to come back, you've been behind the bench the last 2 games. Just how's that perspective been for you, being back behind the bench, watching the game from a different lens as opposed to being up top? And if you kind of enjoyed that, being able to be there with the guys and having to avoid a few flying pucks here and there.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Yeah, the last 3 games, Brantford and Kitchener, and then last night against Peterborough. No, it's good. It's good to get the juice back. It's good to see these guys, the passion and the energy and the positivity. The bench is great. It's nice to see, these guys are having fun. They're not down. Even with, our injuries and illness, guys have stepped up, and, it's a great group of players, and they generally, love playing for each other. And, these past 3 games, they've really come together in a positive way, and it's just nice getting down there with these guys and just being on the front lines with them. It's not easy being a hockey player, and these guys are doing a fantastic job right now, and just hopefully we can stack another positive week together.
Yeah, and you've already picked up more wins here in December than you had in November. It was a rough month, but what are you hoping that these last couple of games here against Kitchener and Peterborough, and we do talk again in January after the holidays over, what are you hoping to see from the team as they continue to develop under head coach Ben Boudreau, and what are you just really hoping to see by the next time that we do chat? Obviously, you want to be up and near a playoff spot, but just continuing to see the development of your younger players, I would assume?
Well, we're just trying to win the week, and, we won last week, so, we're focusing on having strong practices and execution, and, we're going to get healthy very soon, so that's an added bonus too. So, we're hoping we can, get some wins here before the Christmas break and rest up over break and come back and push. These next group of games are very important for us. So, getting healthy is number one, which I think we'll do quickly. And, I think just the past week we've had, guys are itching to get back and they're ready to play for each other. So, just to stack wins and, close the gap and stay healthy. Once you're not healthy, it can be very tough to navigate, but I'm looking forward to seeing these guys back full strength.
IceDogs General Manager Wes Consorti on our monthly maintenance segment. Wes, thanks so much for doing this. Best of luck the rest of December. Happy holidays to you as well, and I look forward to talking to you early January in 2024.
You got it. You too.
There was IceDogs General Manager Wes Consorti on our monthly maintenance segment brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair. Drew, a lot of good stuff there from the IceDogs General Manager. Talked about making the coaching change, talked about the trade for Brody Crane, talked about, like you mentioned before we went into it, the young players. But, what were some things that really stuck out to you from what the IceDogs General Manager had to say?
Well, the first thing probably is just how relaxed he sounded after those 2 big wins against, divisional leaders, 2 teams at the top of the OHL in Peterborough and Kitchener. So you just got the sense that Wes was like that first little breath of fresh air. And, really that was something that I immediately gleaned from how he was just like, there's a bit of a monkey off their backs right now after these 2 big wins. And he mentioned the young players. He mentioned, the health and, like we mentioned too, of the team. But it really does seem like the mental health of this team is in a very good place with Ben Boudreau at the helm here. And I know that's weird to talk about in a sense because it's, still somewhat stigmatized, but it does seem like if you can get everyone mentally on the same page, I mean, their skill and their talent are eventually going to catch up, right? So it does seem like everybody's on the same page, and Wes has been impressed with these young players, and they are the future. Like he said, right? They are the future of this franchise, and they're really going to be leaning heavily on them going forward.
Yeah, and a couple other things that I took away from that, they started the season with 3 or 4 starters sitting because they just had so many players, and that was the healthy competition that they had, was that they had a couple of solid players. Even Ivan Galyanov was in the press box for most of the season until he was able to get in with some of those injuries, and now he's been a stable presence. So when the lineup really shakes out after they've had 8 or 9 guys out of the lineup due to illness and injury, I think Ben Boudreau is going to have some tough choices to make with how he's going to go about the lineup, because the guys that have kind of stepped up right now in the absence of some of their key veterans has been pretty impressive. And, where does that slot them when they come back?
Well, yeah, that's a good problem to have, right? So I think every team, if they had the choice, would like that problem. And that's one thing that Wes mentioned also, is that no matter who is in and out of the lineup, I mean, they got to be ready. They got to be ready to compete. He wants them to be eating well, working out well, and also their off ice conduct. He actually mentioned that specifically. Like, you guys got to be taking care of yourselves off the ice. And he mentioned how important that is. So that's why character and culture, again, are just huge themes for this season. It's very, very clear.
And he talked about both goalies wanting the net. Talked about, when they acquired Marcus Vandenberg, this was the type of goaltender that they had expected when they got him from Kitchener. And it's a healthy competition, just like he said, with any other tandem in the OHL. but it really does feel like they have a 1A, 1B, and just kind of ride the hot hand. Obviously, both goalies want the net, Owen Flores and Marcus Vandenberg, but right now both of them are playing at a level that this team really needs from them as they continue to grow it as a unit here, but they're going to have to make some tough decisions down the road here with which goalie is going to start to get more of the starts. It might just be, whichever one has the better game will get the third game of the week, or if it's a back-to-back or what have you. But I think it's a good problem to have if you're Ben Boudreau at this point.
Yeah, Vandenberg especially. I mean, he was just named, OHL Player of the Week or what have you. Yep. So, that's pretty impressive stuff. And then Flo, as they call him, has also, done as best as he could. But Vandenberg coming in and getting those two, we should mention that he was the starting goalie against Kitchener and Peterborough. And once again, very, very impressive. So all the power to both of them. But clearly Vandenberg has really turned some heads recently.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about what Wes had to say there was they didn't envision them making any more moves right now. They're really happy with what their young players are giving them, and it's weird to say, but it's almost like they're going to be making a few trades when all these guys get back in the lineup, because they haven't had these guys for a month and a half, and you're getting hopefully 3 or 4 of these mainstay players back, and you're inserting them back in your lineup. So making a trade at this point doesn't really seem optimal, at least maybe if they want to go out and get a defenseman. But I think up front, they've got the talent and they've got the bodies to be able to go and do that. It's just a matter of getting everybody healthy, and you can't really fault them for that. It wasn't like this was something that they foresaw coming. They don't want to make it an excuse, and obviously every team goes through injuries. But when you have 8 or 9 guys out of the lineup, whatever team you are, that's going to be hard to overcome, and you're going to be shorthanded some days. You're going to have call-ups come up and at least fill the spot and produce at some level. And your other guys that are in the lineup, and it happens to be 4 16-year-olds, have got to pick up the slack right now.
No question about it. So, again, optimism still at the forefront. And unfortunately, I have to go. I'm really sorry to do this while we're recording here, but we tried to sneak this in with my piece. So I just want to thank you for doing that, because it was pretty tough today, but we made it work as best as possible, and we'll let you carry us home, Brando.
All right, sounds good, Drew. So we'll take you to Lavy's Lounge, brought to you by the Niagara Golf Lounge. Niagara is home for golf and sport year-round, located in the Best Western Carencroft Hotel in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more, to host an event, or to book your golf day today. Here is IceDogs captain Zak Lavoie. Back on Lavy's Leadership Lounge, brought to you by the Niagara Golf Lounge with IceDogs captain Zak Lavoie. Zak, first, let's get to a few fan-submitted questions. First off, what's the dynamic in the room been like with so many guys being out of the lineup, having to get adjusted to some new guys, trying to get them familiar with it with everybody, and just trying to make them feel welcome?
Just not making an excuse. We've got call-ups here and there, short lineup, but we've been going into games, thinking, let's not make this an excuse, and let's go out there and give it our best.
As far as getting to know the guys, how have you guys tried to make that as easy as possible for guys like Eric Key, even Deanna for that one game, Darcy DeWatcher, trying to get them engraved and what's expected of them, but also, trying to welcome them into the room at the same time, because it can be pretty stressful as a call-up player.
Yeah, for sure. The older players, I think it's our job to make them feel included. And so, for example, DeWatcher, that one game he played at home, he stayed with me at my billet house for the pregame stuff. So just, keeping them included, even if they don't, go into stuff, you invite them over, and it makes it more fun for everyone.
Next one, what do you guys do to bond as a team off the ice? Is there anything that you guys, get together and do? Or I know that some guys are in school and things like that, but when you do have the time, what do you guys like to do off the ice together?
Well, OG Fortnite just came back, so... Well, it's gone now, but it was back for about a month, so a lot of the guys played that for a while, so it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I play that too. I'm not very good. But next question is, this is an odd one. If you had to make a band with 3 of your teammates, who would you choose?
Gav. He plays the guitar, so that's pretty good. I'd like to see Sobe in there, just because, I don't know, he's always putting, what music is it? Lady Gaga or something like that? Like Adele. No, Adele. He's always putting Adele music on, so I'd like to see him in there, and... We'll put Perry, because he's all over the map. What
would you be in the band?
The guy that does the lights. I wouldn't be singing or playing an instrument.
Right. How are you guys staying encouraged with wins being hard to come by right now? You only won one game in November. Encouraging start to December, obviously, that big win in Kitchener. How are you guys trying to stay upbeat and making sure that you guys are still doing the right things on and off the ice to make sure that those results are going to come and you don't get too down when you lose a couple of games here?
Well, it starts with Boudreau, you know, in our meetings and before games. You know, he's just motivating us to play the right way. And as players, it's our job to keep playing the right way, and so that's what we're trying to do.
How big was that confidence booster in Kitchener, not just for yourself personally because you scored the overtime winner, but just for the group as a whole to know that there aren't going to be any excuses moving forward? You can beat anybody in this league, no matter who's in and out of the lineup, and just making sure that win was uplifting for you guys because it was something that you probably needed.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it doesn't really matter who's in the lineup. Booty's got a good game plan for us, and we just got to follow it, and we'll be good.
Another question fan submitted is who's the biggest prankster on the team? Like who's the one, maybe opening up a water bottle in practice or doing something in the room to keep it light?
Ass is pretty big prankster. So.
Alex Asadorian. He doesn't say a whole lot, but maybe he's one of those sneaky guys.
Yeah, he is.
So I know you're a big golf guy.
Yeah.
Segment sponsored by the Niagara Golf Lounge. So how do you feel about your golf game, and is there somebody else that's really good on the team at golf, or what's going on there?
Well, first of all, I like to think I'm a scratch player, even though I'm not. I'm pretty terrible. But on the team, I don't know. We haven't really gotten the chance to go out, so I don't know. I don't know who's good or who's not. But I know Elijah from the front office is pretty good at golf.
Yeah. So you think you're a scratch golfer, but what was your best round this summer?
Oh, probably like 100. Not good. I'm not good.
There was IceDogs captain Zak Lavoie. Some good stuff there. Lavy's Leadership Lounge segment that we want to bring you every single month. A couple of funny little things about his teammates there. They play OG Fortnite, which is now gone, but I guess that's what they like to do off the ice. If they were in a band, it was going to be Gavin Bryant, Daniil Sobolev, and Matthew Paris were the three people that Zak Lavoie picked. He said he doesn't want to be anywhere near the band. He's not good with instruments, but he said he wanted to be the guy in control of the lights. So good stuff there. Not a scratch golfer, but maybe if we get him in the Niagara Golf Lounge, maybe we can help him with his golf game there. A little plug to them. As far as some of the more serious stuff, he said it was not making excuses no matter who's in or out of the lineup. Making sure that it's his job to make the young players feel included, as well as the call-ups that do come into the and out of the lineup. And he even said that Darcy DeWatcher actually stayed with him for one of the games. So taking those guys under his wing was very important, and that's what Coach Ben Boudreau spoke about him as well, about naming him captain, is that he's a natural-born leader, and he walks the walk. He doesn't just talk the talk. So that's the type of leader that Zak Lavoie is, and it's good to see that he's doing that. And even he had some praise for his new head coach, said that Ben Boudreau motivates them to play the right way and really gets them, prepared for these games, and doesn't let them have any excuses, try to sneak into their minds. And no matter who's in and out of the lineup, they really do believe that they can go and beat every single team in this league. And they showed that obviously against Kitchener and Peterborough without some of their key guys in the lineup. So good stuff there from Lavy's Leadership Lounge. Good stuff from Wes Consorti on the monthly maintenance segment, as well as head coach Ben Boudreau in our first segment today, Inside the Coach's Room. So for my co-hosts Cam Halbert and Andrew Thompson today, thank you very much for tuning in to another installment of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Visit any four of their great Niagara region locations in our monthly wrap-up show for the month of November and I guess the beginning of December. So the next time you guys will see us in video will most likely be into the new year. So happy holidays to you and yours. And we look forward to talking about more Niagara IceDogs positive results here as we finish off the month of December. Best of luck to Urban Podrekar for Team Slovenia at the World Juniors. So until next time, this has been the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.